I feel like Forrest Gump when he sees Jenny. Lieutenant Dan. Lieutenant Dan. When he's on the boat, he's got his hands on his hip.
Yes,
it's been so long. How are you?
I'm good. It's been quite a month. I've been busy. We'll get into it another day. But
sure.
Let's just say the best laid plans don't always work out.
No, they don't. No, they don't. And speaking of best laid plans, today's a huge day. It's Sly's birthday.
Happy birthday.
Yes, happy birthday.
Oh my goodness. I'm so excited. It's our 2-year anniversary.
Yes,
today.
It is.
Yes, it is.
Oh my God. Yep. You didn't even mention that to me in our little amble that we do every show here. Wow, 2 years.
2 years. So we started on his 75th and now he's 77.
My God.
Yeah.
Isn't that something? You know, I remember my father telling me it was probably a few months before I had even done the previous podcast that I had been on. I remember my dad mentioning to me, and my dad, he's such an interesting guy. You know, he really is. There's no secret. My dad only went to 9th grade, but he's one of the smartest guys I know. He really is. Right? He really applies himself. He reads. He's into the newspaper, the local news, which is where you should get a lot of information from. But anyways, he always gives me another something to think about. Like, I think I'm on the right track, and I'm basically am on the right track. Anyways, my father says to me, he goes, Mike, have you ever thought about doing a podcast? And I go, oh, God, Dad, these podcasts are so stupid. I said, there's a couple of rocky ones out there now. I said, a long time ago, I was part of something called Slycast. I said I would come on as a guest talker because of my knowledge. And I love those guys. Those guys were great. There were 2 Jeffs and a guy named Craig, who I adore those guys. But, you know, things break up like the Beatles, they move on and so on. Right. And they're doing other things. But so I said, no, I don't know. Podcasting, that's not for me. It's kind of cheesy.
Come on.
And when you came to me with this, and I thought, you know what? Here's somebody, Stacy, who, you know, when you get burned a little bit along the way, you get a little jaded. But, you know, there's something about you, Stacy, that is very wholesome and likable and accessible. No, I mean that. And I know I hit you in the head with tomato compliments every once in a while, but I think it's appropriate. And I think we all should give people in our lives those types of compliments who have helped us get to where we are. So, you know, this is a big show, but we'll get to all that in just a little bit. Okay, so your best laid plans did not work out for you, right?
No.
They didn't work out for you.
No, but in your tours, you said have been mental this month, right?
I mean, when mentally irregular comes to mind on this, you know. So, you know, we talked about one of the last, I think, podcasts we did. We talked about the thing with MGM and so on, and I was terrified. I thought MGM making me take the Rocky out of my tour name that I worked so hard for 15 years to acquire and get a great reputation. I thought that's it. Game over, man. You're going back to Sherwin-Williams and hauling thousands of gallons of paint daily to job sites.
No
way. I said, I can't do that. I can't.
I know.
I just could. So it turns out that May and June were the busiest months ever in all the time I've been doing this. And the name has been changed. Everything has been changed, and people are still finding me. And I'm really, I was able to go,
yeah.
And I had gone in this weekend. My brother Jay had his 50th birthday on the 29th. And my sister-in-law's is coming up in August 9th or 10th, I think.
Okay.
And I got in for this co-birthday dinner, and my mother says to me, we're sitting on the porch, and the summer breeze is going, and the sound of life is happening around the house. And I tell my mother this, and she goes, when will you listen to your mother? She goes, I told you. She goes, you got nothing to worry about. She goes, you're cemented. That's it. People are going to find you.
Yes.
And she was right. But
that's
true. When you're in the throes of it, you don't know because I'm always a guy. I wear my insecurities on my sleeves when it comes to this Rocky stuff. I'm so afraid. Sue always says I'm terrified it's going to be taken away from me. And right away, I'm like a samurai warrior with the swords out. And I'm with the nunchucks ready to fight anyone who's in the way. And fighting is not always the best course of action.
I know. But you're like in TripAdvisor's things to do in Philadelphia. That's pretty cemented.
It is. It is. And I'm always in the top. I was the #1 tour for like 3 years until the algorithms changed. And so now I'm in the top like 5 out of 120 or 130 tours. I'll take that. That's fine.
Yeah.
No problem. No problem. Anyways.
People know.
That's been my time. I've just been very, very busy. I haven't had much time to do anything. There's been no sunbathing. There's been no swimming. I save a lot of money on like, coconut oil, but other than that, that's it.
You're a goober.
But, the one thing that I did get a really huge kick out of was the last episode of the Stallone family show on Paramount Plus, streaming now. Go check it out.
So good.
It was amazing. There's this great segment where there was a little drama. They weren't sure if all 3 daughters were going to make it to dinner, because this is a very big moment for Sly. Yes, he's been to Philly several times, but this particular time, he didn't know if he's going to be able to come back again anytime soon with the whole family.
Right.
So they go to the Victor Cafe, and there's this great shot of them sitting at the table. And there you go. That's the table where Sophia is sitting, is where Drago sat. And of course, where Sly is sitting is where Rocky sat in the second spinoff sequel to the greatest series ever.
Right.
So that was kind of interesting. And their third daughter, Scarlett, she came a little bit later, but she did make it for dinner, and it was very, very sweet. And if you guys haven't seen it yet, it's the 8th episode. It closes out. It's wonderful. Go check out the episode. You get an insight. You get a little peek through the blinds at what their life is like. And I think that it's remarkable to put themselves out there. What do you think about the show so far?
Well, I mean, it removes a little bit of the mystery. You don't know what everyone's like, and Jen's just a mom. She just wants family together. She's all about being the mama. And it was really interesting to learn more about Scarlett, because we see a lot of Sophia and Sistine because of the podcast, and they're more visible, where Scarlett's a little more private. She wants sort of her own little thing. So I thought it was neat watching her talk about wanting that independence, away from the big Stallone name, and just build her. I was
very drawn to Scarlett in that sense. I was very interested in saying, wow, I can relate to Scarlett more than maybe some other people, because Scarlett she wants to do her own thing.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's hard for other people to say, what, come on with us or whatever, but it's great. Everybody understands and everybody gets it. But I love that she does her own thing. I think that's quite remarkable.
And I think the funniest thing is she's the youngest one, yet I think she's the most directed. Like, she's the most sure of exactly what she wants to do.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, good for you. I wish I had known that. I'm still floating around, trying to figure it out. And she seems pretty solid about what she wants to do.
She's incredible. What is she? Like 21, I think. She's 21, I think, right? 2021. And she, she knows she has direction. I remember when I was about 20 years old, I was like figuring out how to put cheese on the mousetrap without breaking my finger.
Right.
Like, that's where I was at 20. Okay.
Right.
That's
good for her.
Yeah.
Good for her.
Anyways, episode 78. Do you have any?
78.
Episode 78. Do you have any big Sly facts?
I have a 1978 fact. It was his directorial debut with Paradise Alley.
Nice.
And Michael has a neat little thing he noticed that even Sly didn't notice. Love this.
That's true. That's true. So I mentioned this probably about a year and a half ago. So I'll tell you this again. The opening of Rocky 2, we see that scene with the ambulance. The camera's in the front seat of the ambulance, and it's going around through the streets of Philadelphia. And, if you know Philly, the thing is, the route makes no sense. There's no, because the fight was at the Spectrum. So they should come right up South Broad Street and probably take a left down on Dickinson or South Street, and then cut over to the hospital that was down around 8th. Like, that's really where they should have went. But I get it. For dramatic effect, for the opening of the movie, this is much more cinematic. I understand that. Anyways, as the ambulance is crossing around City Hall, on the left, we see what appears to be a church, which it's actually, what's the secret thing, the secret society? The Masons. It's a giant Masons lodge, right?
Okay.
And as the ambulance comes towards us, now it turns around and we're inside the ambulance looking out. And to the right is a city bus. And on the back of the bus, it says Paradise Alley, and it has Sly's headshot of Cosmo Carboni. And you can see it clearly says Paradise Alley with that big cursive P on the back of the bus. Do you know Sly never noticed that at the time? It got past editing. No.
I can't. And who noticed it? And who told him? Hey,
I wrote him that. I wrote him that. Yes, I messaged him. I don't know. A few years ago, I had messaged him, and he goes, "Never do that." It comes back. Had no idea. That was it. Like,
that's
really?
Crazy.
Wow. And so then I began to think, like, how do you miss something like that? And I remember reading an article about the pressure Sly was under, as he is under anytime he's the actor, writer, producer, director, star. I mean, that's a lot of hats you got to wear. And so you're going to miss something. It's just going to happen. Well, Paradise Alley did open at that time. And I remember in this one particular article, he had talked about going to a screening in Philadelphia. He snuck in the back door, and there was like nobody in the audience. Nobody went to see it. And he was like, oh my God, this movie's going to be a flop. And I don't think it was really well received. I don't know why. I love Paradise Alley. I mean, a lot of people say Sly can't sing, and they may be right, or maybe they're definitely right. But there are two things I love. I love Drinkenstein.
Yes.
Drinkenstein and Stay Out of My Bedroom in Rhinestone. I can still sing those songs today. And I love the opening scene of Paradise Alley in 1978 when he jumps from rooftop to rooftop and he sings Too Close to Paradise.
Right.
There is something so visceral from the character's point of view singing this song. Right. I loved it. I do. So that's not fanboy worship. That's just, I'm telling you how it is.
Well, there's music in the veins. I mean, Frank can sing. There's no way Sly can't sing. At least some, you know?
Right. No, I mean, any of you guys watching right now, after the podcast, go on YouTube and pull up Drinkenstein or Stay Out of My Bedroom with Dolly Parton. I'm telling you, it draws you in.
Yes, it does.
I mean, Dolly Parton draws you in no matter what, but Sly singing draws you in too. So it's great stuff. Check it out.
Okay.
Check it out. All right. So here's something that I teased Stacy with.
Yeah.
And I think she got annoyed with me.
I'm like, I don't know.
So we're going to play a television ad right now. And I want you all to think what this has to do with the Rocky mythology. Sly, if you see this, maybe this might slip your mind. I don't know. You'll probably know it. Stacy, go ahead. Play that.
The word is awesome. Introducing the newest Datsun Z car, now turbo-driven. Own the new Datsun Turbo Z car, and you own the road. Datsun Turbo.
Okay.
Now, I want to see in the chat, all right?
Yes.
So cue that music for the Jeopardy. Da-da. Let's cue that. And I want to see in the live chat on YouTube, what do you guys think? Stacy and I are just going to stay here. We're going to stare at you, and we're going to see if you come up with any of the right answers. I'll be shocked. I don't see anything so far, Stacy.
No. I'm looking.
I don't see anything so far.
Okay, like the most innocuous thing on the face of the earth. I'm like, I have no clue what you're talking about.
Okay. Would you play a little scene from Paulie Panino in a bar in the opening of Rocky 3?
Contender, Clubber Lang, will have to continue to play the waiting game, but that should be a great, great matchup.
Word is awesome. Introducing the newest Datsun ZX. Now, Turbo
don't forget to give Rocky my best, huh? You know, I've been coming 8 years.
Did you guys hear the commercial playing after Clubber? The commercial playing after Clubber is the Datsun commercial.
Right.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Wow.
So that's pretty good.
That's wow. I would love to know if Sly ever noticed that or would know that connection.
I'm gonna say Sly doesn't. I'm gonna say, but here's the thing: Sly directs Rocky 3, right? So, nothing gets in the movie without his approval because he's got to sign off on everything.
Right.
So somewhere along the line, he had to have okayed a Datsun commercial.
Right.
To be used. That would have had to have been given credit to, or maybe they pay Stallone to be in Rocky 3 or MGM rather. But then the interesting thing is the car Adrian pulls up to, that burgundy, I think it was a 360Z Datsun.
Okay.
I think she pulls up in Rocky 4. I don't know what you people are doing here. I don't know what you people are talking about.
Yeah.
And then Rocky comes in and he goes, why'd you do it? I just got to do what I got to do, Adrian. I love it. But so she's driving a Datsun there. So I think it was a Datsun 280Z. And the only reason I say that is because a friend I went to school with, this guy Mo, his father bought him one. Yeah, it's a few bucks back then. But anyways, so that's our little trivia thing there. I don't know. Was that too much? Was that too verbose?
No, it was good.
All right, I didn't lord it over anyone, did I?
No, right. Only me.
I did. I was very disappointed in you.
Oh my God. Oh, the sun will rise.
Okay, Stacy. This episode, for several reasons, is kind of important. You know, first time where we have something from Sly that is specifically for this show. This was not specifically for me. Over the last, I don't know, 5 years, I forget exactly how long, but I've been text messaging with Sly. Sometimes it's weekly, sometimes it's every 2 weeks, but he's so generous that he gets back to me. And it's always the minutia of Rocky. Like, I'm tempted to ask him First Blood questions. I am. Because First Blood is next in the series. Right. And then I want to talk to him about Copland. And then I want to talk to him about Paradise Alley and Lords of Flatbush. But I know his time is so valuable. Right. And the most important thing to me is anything with Rocky. Mm-hmm. So I try to hold my questions to that. Anyways, I had this question that I thought was a fairly interesting question. I did not expect it to get the response that we're all going to see. Mm-hmm. I sent him a voice message to his phone probably 3 weeks ago-ish, 2 weeks ago. And actually, well, Stacy, go ahead. Why don't you play it?
All right.
Hey, Sly, how's it going? Listen, I wanted to ask you a question. It's kind of one of those deep ones, you know, so, I don't know, think about it. When you think of Rocky, what is it that you think of? What's the image that pops into your mind? Is it the young fighter walking the docks in the fedora, you know, forever young, even though at 30 he was past his physical prime, almost in boxing? Do you think of Rocky 3, Rocky 4, that imagery? Do you think of Rocky Balboa? You know, or do you think of, you know, Rocky from the first Creed movie? I hate to even say the C word around you. I don't even like to say it in my own life. But there's a certain beautiful imagery of Rocky. And I've always wondered, when you see something on television, when you have a conversation with someone, what is it that pops in your mind when someone says Rocky? Or do you think of the grueling filming schedule? Do you think of the issues at hand? Or do you somehow find the great beauty and the naivety of the character? I was hoping to get this on the podcast. This is one of the types of questions I like answering. And we're going to come back on the podcast. I think around your birthday we're going to come back. We're going to take a couple weeks off, bunch of stuff going on, tours, everything's keeping us busy. Anyways, listen, if you get some time, send me your thoughts. I'd love to, you know me, pick your brain about Rocky. Anyways, I'll keep punching.
And this was his immediate response 3 minutes later. Hey, good question. Let me have a little time to deliberate out the question, then I'll answer. Well, when he wrote me back that, I said to myself, wow, I think I struck a very nostalgic mode in his mind. Yeah. I really did. And for me, it was, I was a little taken aback by that.
Yeah.
Okay. So 24 hours later, I'm doing a tour. An alert comes up, message.
Yeah.
And so I look at it, and it's almost a 16-minute video link.
Yep.
Of him sitting in his house responding to this question. And I couldn't move. I was like a deer in the headlights. I was like, oh,
what?
If you had told 11-year-old Mikey Kunda from Scranton that this was going to happen,
yeah,
I would have had them take you in a straitjacket to the loony bin. Stacy, I teased this early last week, and I think everybody really wants to hear this right from Sly's mouth. And he goes on quite a tangent, quite an educational tangent. One I could only beg him for more. So, Stacy, why don't you hit that button?
Here we go.
Mike Kunda, you are quite tenacious, no doubt about it, and probably the most renowned historian on Rocky, curator of that character. And I'm very grateful for that. And for all the associates and all the friends you have that have come along and worked with you on the podcast, and something you've dedicated your life to, which is pretty extraordinary. You asked a very profound question. I've always thought that Rocky is one of the great realists in the world. He knows his flaws, he knows his inadequacies, and he doesn't try to cover them up. He's not afraid to mention his losing record in boxing. I mean, he lost over 25 fights. But to him, it's just part of being real with oneself, understanding that, as Rocky would say, I'm not a great fighter, but I would definitely fight great fighters. That's what I do. And I would say pretty conclusively that the attitude I had in Rocky II is pretty much in my mind at all times. In other words, at that time, he was never a champion, and he never saw himself as a champion. He always wanted to win, but he never wanted the trappings of being a champion. If anything, it took away from the essence of his simplicity, and it complicated his life. So when he eventually had to go back to his, quote, roots in Rocky V, which I wish I had re-edited and rethought, because there was something very profound about how do you go back. It's probably the most terrifying thing in the world for anyone who has had a modicum of success, is to lose it all. And you go, what were all those beatings for? What was all that dedication? What was all that insecurity or rising above your fears? For nothing. But he isn't the kind of guy that would overtly whine. And I guess there's some aspects of that film that in retrospect, I would have, of course, done over. And the fight, I would have definitely done over. I would have probably had it indoors. There was something about the street that didn't have the grandeur, the pageantry that the audience had built up in their minds. So it's kind of, for example, you're going to a Formula One race, you're going to the Daytona 500 for 20 years. All of a sudden, you find out that the race is being held in a cornfield in Kansas. You know, oh, really? Yeah, outdoors in a cornfield in Kansas at high noon. It dampens the whole imagery and the expectation. And I think that had a subliminal effect that was quite resoundingly rejected by people that saw it. The film itself, I think, was adequate in its performances. I probably could have done a better job if I directed it. No offense to John, but after 2 and 3 and 4, it was almost autopilot. I know that was also one of your questions, Mike. You go, do you ever think, when you think about Rocky, what do you think of? When you see it on TV or someone asks you about it, do you think about, oh, God, that was incredibly tedious? Or do you have other feelings? I still have a sense of wonderment that how did this happen? Because it was almost done, as all of them were done, with a sense, I should say. Too many punches, you know what I'm saying? And I would look at it as an incredibly exhilarating experience. Yeah, there's tediousness, there's pain, there's a major scenes that have to be really approached with a great deal of temerity, because you know it's going to hurt, you know it's going to be laborious, you know that, quite frankly, you could fail miserably. See, boxing matches, I make them up in the sense the way you make up a mathematical equation. And when the numbers don't match, when it's a little too top-heavy, that's called overfilming, overfighting, and the audience just tunes out. And you have the same situation when I did Rocky III, for example, where I'd gone from the 15-round fight to a 3-round fight. And of course, I was catching hell from everyone, but I thought if you take the same amount of punches that you have in a 15-round fight and you put it into a 3-round fight, it's going to be exalting. It's going to be extraordinary. It's going to be like a drag race, as opposed to, you know, the Daytona 100-mile or Daytona 500-mile race. It's going to be powerful, quick, and that all is predicated on what you set up before it. You know, you tell the audience, you don't have the strength to win. There's no chance. You're going to get murdered if it goes past 3 rounds. Now, you've lit the fuse. And everyone's going, oh shit, round 1, round 2, oh, he's still standing. He's got 1 round to go. So the anticipation is it's like it's building at such a friendly state. I just got excited thinking about it. I was actually flashing back, and the first time I walked into the ring, and the music was playing, the Marine band, and then Clubber comes in. I'm looking around at that time, maybe 3,000-4,000 people, and it was under a lot of duress. I don't want to get into that right now, but it finally happened. But what I think about is, I don't know, I don't feel exalted. I don't feel like, hey, I did it and hell with everyone else, which I guess you could say you beat the odds, and you could be a bit arrogant. I kind of did that earlier on in the 70s, but that's long gone. If anything, there's nothing more boorish than someone telling you how cool they are, whatever reason. There's only a couple guys that get away with that, like Arnold's one. My God, he can say it, but he has a better delivery. It works on him. It's that kind of bravado that makes him Arnold. I'm triggered a different way. I'm whittled a different way. And that is, I look at it as like the audience. I'm not going, well, that's me. That's me. Look at me. Wow, I look really cool in that scene. No, not at all. If anything, I see the defects. But I do enjoy the gravity of it. It just pulls you in. It's like centrifugal force and then gravity. And it makes me really damn happy to accomplish this. And it makes me even happier that other people still really covet the relationship with this fictional character. I mean, it really kind of almost crosses the line between fact and fiction. Yeah. Sometimes in Philadelphia, when I go and look at the statue and I study people's expressions, I'm usually hidden off in some secluded area for a few moments before I'm discovered. And I notice that people actually, a lot of them, have blurred the line, and Rocky is almost semi-real. It's touched something in their own psyche and in their own hearts that wants it to be real, as opposed to Rambo. No one's ever gonna say Rambo's real or that. Even though I like the character, what the character has provided with me is, you have, it's almost a bipolar career choice. Rocky is totally manic in a way that he's up. He's always up. And then Rambo's negative, depressive, manic depressive, with these different kinds of swings. So I feel incredibly grateful to be able to play this spectrum. But getting back to Rocky, I could do Rocky to the day I drop dead. I have a great one that I love to do, and it's really timely, and would deal with situations where Rocky has to fight in a different way. He has to fight for other people. He has to fight for the dignity of his past as he sees his neighborhood being decimated. So he's kind of a guy that needs a crusade. That's when he's best. Rocky is not a really good loner. It's not. He needs companionship. He was so alone. I mean, he had dogs, turtles. He had nothing. He was not attractive to women. He was not a social bird. Whereas you take some characters that really relish relationships, not him. And that's pretty much me, too. I have a great time when I'm in front of thousands of people. You're in front of 500 million people who are being broadcast around the world. There's no trepidation. I feel not nervous at all. Not nervous at all. But I don't seek that on a constant basis. For example, I could sit in my home for a month straight without going cuckoo, you know. But I don't know. This is really a question I could spend, my God, a semester on. You know, like a semester. So, ideally, I'm trying to run this through my head like a film. I walk into a room, I sit on the couch, I turn on the TV, and much to everyone's chagrin, oh, there's a Rocky festival. And do I watch it? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's comforting. It's kind of like comfort food. And it's, without a doubt, the truest thing I've ever done. If there's anything close to my personality, that's it. He's a bit more noble, and I'll say a lot more tolerant. But Rambo's definitely not my personality. Trust me on that. I tend to be a little bit more outgoing. As you notice, Rocky is very talkative, very loquacious. He doesn't stop talking. That's what I love about the character too. I could say, and this will be, I'll sign off kind of on this. I probably have been the most fortunate performer in the world, seriously, in the world, because I had a character that I could actually tell the world what was on my mind. I could actually say, this is Sylvester Stallone's philosophy in Rocky's body. On a 40-plus year run. It's quite extraordinary that I was able to vocalize and show different aspects of what I think about tenacity, what I think about fame, what I think about loyalty, sadness, loneliness, abandonment, you name it. In Rocky, like Rocky 6, I'm sorry, that stuff was, I mean, I felt that in my bones, because I know eventually that's going to happen. And it makes me really sad. So, well, so it's something that I have to adhere to. And anyway, I hope this transfers. If it's probably too long, Anyway, thank you very much. The Rockettes. Appreciate it. And keep punching.
Wow.
Yeah. Hey, these feelings ain't cardboard. Everybody's got them, Paulie. The hell with everybody. Who the hell are you? Yeah, Stacy. So I hadn't watched that, like, because it's very difficult for me. First of all, I want to say thank you to Sly for taking that time. That's first and foremost, right, Stacy?
Yeah, absolutely. Very generous. When time is your currency, that was a very, very generous donation over here to us. And I personally am very grateful.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to ramble here. I don't know if I'm going to be succinct. I probably tend to think I'm going to be a little bit of both, but it's very difficult for me to even hear. Like I told Sue this the other day, about 2 weeks ago. I can't even look at the screen when he says my name and those kind things about me. Yeah. I can't even look at it because I'm going to go a little biblical here. Okay. if you remember the great Charlton Heston in the Ten Commandments. Okay. Yes. I love this movie so much. I watch it every year at Easter, and he climbs up the mountain, and then God puts the commandments on the mountain.
Yep.
So when Sly says that, that's like the 10 Commandments to
me.
And the hair is gray, and he's got the flowing robe, and the skies are darkening because they're and I'm just like, it's very, very, very difficult for me to even hear that. I tend to not hit I tend to let it mute. You know, when videos play, they're on mute until you hit the little button.
Yeah.
I tend to let that part go on mute because it's very difficult. I am not ready to get in touch with my emotional state that brings out in me.
Right.
Because even now I'm fighting it.
Yeah.
So 11-year-old little Mikey Kunda in Scranton, Pennsylvania is watching this Rocky at the behest of my father, who knew I was struggling with my identity. I was struggling with trying to find my place in the world, even at 11 years old, because that is when we start this process, you know? And so seeing Rocky and then immediately going to Red Italian Stallion on my little gray sweatshirt as a kid to now where I am now,
I know
where we are now.
Yeah.
This for him to, I mean, you're talking, this is Deke De Silva, Marion Cobretti. You're talking about Gabe Walker. You're talking about Barney Ross, John Rambo, you know, Freddie Heflin. You're talking Cosmo Carboni. You're talking about all these, John Spartan. You're talking about all these great characters.
Yeah.
And here they are, all in his mind, sitting in his house where he could be, I don't know, teaching his children something or listening to their story. What he took a very valuable 15 minutes and he gave it to us.
Yeah.
Stacy.
Yeah.
I'm going to come back to, I made a few notes here on what I want to, but where are you at with all this?
Well, as I'm watching this episode sort of unravel, I'm like, it's very special for you and for John, because all in the same episode, you both have experienced a massive experience for validation. Everything that he's been signed on to do with MGM, or with Amazon, now that Amazon owns MGM. Just to be chosen for that, to be appointed to that, all the nods that he gets from Sly, it's like, where do you go from there? And then this video for you, you guys, you both have received something from him, and we got it all in the same episode. And it's very special simply because, and not just fame, but he is literally one of the most famous human beings in the history of the world, not just right now,
right.
Ever. And to get that validation when you feel like you're a million miles away as a little kid, and now he takes the time to send this in to say that to you. Just the fact that he said podcast, I was like,
yeah, I know.
You know,
right.
I was thrilled. When he takes 2 seconds to like something that I post.
Yeah, right.
That is his time. That's a little piece of time that he gives us. And I'm very grateful. And it's special for you and for John.
Stacy, the majority of my life up to this point, and I know my mother and father and Sue are not, they don't like when I say this, but I think they understand when I say this. The majority, not all of my life. I've had some wins outside the Rocky circle. I have.
Right.
But the majority has been like unvalidated in my life. And so you're always striving for that. I never had the validation with my marriage, or the validation with my mother and father, or with my brother, or my extended family around that. That fell into place. This is that validation where there's only one person that can give this to you. There's only one.
Yeah. And
the thing that I've seen with Sly, the thing that I understand about him, he understands what that validation in that moment means, because he understands the storytelling value of it and how that can inspire if done correctly. There are no stop or my mom will shoot tours, okay?
Right.
There aren't.
Right.
But there is a Rocky tour. And so he gets that. And if I had any lingering doubts, if I ever wondered, and I'm pretty good now. I don't need any. Sly, you can continue to talk about me in public. That's great. But nothing more is ever necessary.
Yeah.
If he never spoke to me again, I'd miss our conversations. We've had probably hundreds of conversations about Rocky in various ways. But if he never did, I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'm really okay. All right. So feedback on that and where we are so far. And then I'm going to talk about some of the things that, touched me.
No, I was just going to say, I like to call these moments like these little God winks. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
I'm glad that you like connected it to like a biblical moment, because I don't know, those are the moments that you feel like there is something bigger than ourselves out there. And I'm just so glad that you had that from him. Yeah. And the only, what I loved, he arrived to the conclusion in the end. Earlier, he's like, there are people who blur the line between Rocky and Sly, and to some people it's very real. And then in the end, he says, Rocky is how I was feeling, what I was trying to say, what I was going through. And that self-awareness, that's why it's not a blur for people, because that's why people yell Rocky when they see Sly. Yeah. And Sly is Rocky. I mean, it's not really blurred at all, because he is that, and it is real because of him. Yeah. So, right. And I just thought it was neat how he got there by the end. And I could listen to it over and over. It was so nice.
I'm going to try listening to it a little bit more. It's very difficult for me because it's a heavy moment. It's a very, very heavy moment for me. So, but I'm going to listen to it more and more and more. Anyways, one of the things he said was, I know my flaws. And the thing is like, or Rocky knows his flaws. I was always very aware of that. I may fight against those flaws, but I'm very, very aware of who and what I am because of the choices that I have made over the last 50 years. And so, when that thought process went into the character, the building blocks of Rocky, I'm like, oh yeah, that's one of the reasons why I love this guy. That's one of the main reasons. Another thing was, I don't want to put my glasses on because I'm trying to look cool. That's cool looking, isn't it? Okay. So for me, Rocky isn't great himself, but like he's fought great fighters. I don't feel I've done great things. I feel I've helped people to accomplish great moments, like their bucket list on the tour. I just had a woman from Texas with her family, and her husband was an ex-Marine, and children are going to college, and it's a beautiful family. And the look and the story she was telling me about this bucket list moment of being at the gym, being at the Victors, or running up the stairs. Every single time I get these fans that are just imbued with the goodness and the logic of Rocky, I find it very hard not to get emotional. Now, I don't cry like a babbling idiot. I don't do that. But I do get like I get now during this podcast, listening to Sly talk. I get very, very emotional because I understand the heaviness. I understand the gravity of that moment. Right. Because even though I've been to these sites 3,000 times, it's like the first time for me every time I go. It's this. Like, they ask me all the time, do you ever get sick of looking up at the gym? Do you ever get sick of looking at that original fire hydrant? No, never. Because I was the 11-year-old kid who was scared of his own shadow, trying to find his way in the world, and this character gave it to me. All right, so that's that one. What else did I got to do it, guys. I got to break down here. All right, the Rocky 5 fight. So a couple of things here. I loved his analogy of the Daytona 500 in the cornfield. Right. Nobody comes up with these analogies like Sly does. And when I do it, I sit here before I put an analogy forward to you, to Sue, or to my favorite, to out on social media. I say, what would Sly say? What is the road he would go down? How would Rocky analogy be? Yeah. But I have to disagree. I don't think I want to see a Rocky 5 fight in an arena. I don't want the pageantry. I like the dirtiness of the street. Right. I like the grittiness. I love that. I acknowledge I am in the minority here. And Sly is right as far as fans go. I have heard that time and time again. So I guess it's just an artistic choice, but also it's Sly's looking back over it all this time. And, you know, but by no means is this a critique. This is just, I just love the Rocky V street fight. That's all. I love it. All right. Okay. Here's one of the things I was very nervous when I realized he was doing a video and it was going to go long, and he started talking, and it would have broken my heart to have heard him say that the wonderment is gone when he watches Rocky. When he said it's still a source of wonderment, I was like, yeah. Because, like, you know, there are things in our life, whether we come across a Polaroid or we come across an old VHS tape, you're like, oh,
yeah,
wish I didn't do that.
Right.
and it's being shown to you by someone in the family who thinks it's cute and funny, and you're like humiliated by it. But
right.
So, but he didn't go there. It's still good for him. And so then put yourself in his shoes. Look, I get emotional just thinking about that. Just put yourself in his shoes, and his children and his wife, they see, like, I know they refer to him as Sly sometimes, but he's Sylvester, the dad, the husband, okay, the brother, and they don't see him. It's a different. I always say this to people when they ask, when this subject comes up. It's like, my dad was a master tailor. He was the best of the best at his trade.
Right.
But when he came home from work, I didn't say, Dad, what kind of spindle did you use on the navy thread in the Type 7R needle?
Right.
No, that was what he did for work. I didn't care.
Right.
But I want to talk to my dad, and I wanted to tell him what was going on in my life. And so that's what he does with his children. And I think that's what we get in the Stallone family reality show. So I'm very glad to hear that when he watches it, they all go, oh God. And they probably do, but he watches it probably as long as he can until someone wrestles the remote off of it.
Right.
Which is kind of funny, you know, and he's like rolling around. The dogs are probably jumping on him. It's kind of funny. All right. Let me keep rolling along here. Oh, here's an interesting one. So he's flashing back to Rocky 3. Clubber Lang, the band is playing. Now, I happen to know a lot of what happened during that fight. In the beginning, I happen to know the backstory about that, and that's not for this podcast. That's another podcast. So, but I eventually want to come back to that because a lot of viewers may not know about that. Anyways, when you watch Sly go into nostalgia mode, first when I watched this, I said, oh, there it is. There it is. Because I sent Sly a message after this, and it was kind of a personal message, so I didn't send it to you to play for everybody. But one of the things I had said is that I was unsure as to why he was so generous to me in this way. But I think watching it back now, I think I understand. I think there's something about me that brings the nostalgia out in him, because I'm really not about business. I'm not really about money. I'm not about any of those things that the majority of people are about. I'm sorry. It really it hits you. For me, it's the heart of Rocky. That's it. You know, what can you do for other people? And I'll go one step more. You know, Charlie Chaplin. A lot of people, they have no idea about this. Charlie Chaplin was a huge influence on Stallone in creating the Rocky psychology. You know, Charlie Chaplin, as the little tramp, whenever he showed up somewhere, he would flip his hat, he would twirl his cane, he would have a very funny thing about him. And his goal was to meet a stranger and leave them marginally better than they were when he came to them. And you see, that's the thing. And so Rocky does that. Yeah. When Spider Rico berates him, you got lucky tonight. Rocky doesn't argue back. If that's what Spider Rico needs in that moment to accept the loss, so be it. Paulie, he could have punched Paulie in the mouth 100 times. but he doesn't. Even when he balls out Adrian, right? Rocky grabs him, and Rocky can't do that last fist to the face. I can't hold meat no more. So, you know, I get that. Little Marie, all these things. Bob at the docks. That's Charlie Chaplin, the little tramp at play in Sly's mind. So it goes into this incredible filter that Sly has, and it comes out in the pen, and he just writes, and it's amazing to me. Okay, so it's the nostalgia, I think, that may have Sly, his generosity leans my way. I think maybe that's what I do for Sly. I don't know. That's just my thoughts. Maybe someday I'll figure it out. I don't know. What do you think?
I think your dedication and your loyalty can't be matched. And I think he knows that, because there's a purity in what you are to the Rocky brand. There's a lot of people who come to the Rocky brand looking for a handout, looking for money. You know, they want to they want to borrow Sly for themselves, or they benefit some way for themselves. And you don't have an ounce of that. You don't have and he knows it.
Yeah, I couldn't live myself if I did. I couldn't. I couldn't do it.
There's a purity in your dedication that you don't have this ulterior motive, and he knows that.
You know, when he says Rocky is semi-real, that's a profound statement, because nobody says Luke Skywalker is semi-real. Nobody says Jason Bourne or Indiana Jones or Magnum PI, okay? Nobody says that.
Yeah.
But when it comes to Rocky, there is something that is it's such rarefied air that you think that character is alive and walking the streets of Philadelphia. When I was 14 or 15 years old, when my parents took me to the Rocky Steps for the first time, which is kind of the inlay of the Pretender poster, I remember walking around the streets as we would just go from store to store or whatever, and I would look in windshields. I would look in store windows, and I would see Rocky's face everywhere. You know, Stallone was out in L.A. at the time living. He wasn't in Philly. But in my mind, I could not discern at that time that Rocky wasn't real. Like, you really think he was part of the backdrop of Philadelphia. So I thought that was a very interesting a thing. And I guess the last thing I'll say, when he said about my question, is that he could do a semester on Rocky. Sly, a semester on Rocky. Even if you did once a month.
Yeah.
Let's do once a month where you call in and we just do I'll do a pre-question ahead of time, give you time to think about it, and when you come on, you just unload.
Yeah.
Because I have to tell you, Sly, of all the Rocky podcasts that are out there, this one is the best one. This is the one that loves not only the character, but its fans more than any other fan podcast. And I will take that to my grave. Absolutely.
Yeah, that would be amazing. And talk about a master class. We've talked about that.
Total master class, of course.
Anytime he wants to 100%. Do that, I'm certainly happy to write the curriculum for him. I'll type it out.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
So anyways, I'm going to really do my best. Let's see, Thursday. Yeah, I think I'm going to tune in for this one. I don't always watch the YouTube live on this. I mean, there's a lot going on in my life, and at some point I have to draw a line and take time for myself and so and so on. So, but I think I'm going to watch this Thursday. I think I'm going to watch and chime in and see what people have to say on this, because I'm and I have a feeling that this is going to be a very, very well watched.
It's a big one. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. And I'm going to, when we hang up here, I'm going to go do a couple of quick promos and have them ready for the next couple of days. But I don't know anything else you want to talk about this video, Stacy? Anything at all? I feel like I monopolize so much of it, as I always do, and I'm so sorry for that.
That's okay. No, I mean, that was for you. I mean,
that was for us in the podcast. I know. Okay, so I got in there. I was able to get the question to him, but that was for the podcast, because I told him in that question, I want this for the podcast, and he knew that. And so, what do you think?
No, I think, you've answered, you said a lot of what I would have said. I think the Rocky 5 fight, the people, I hear people, the real supporters of Rocky 5 love that it was in the street because it was like a return to that grit, you know what I'm saying, that he
Yeah.
grew up in, and he returned there.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
for that, I think it worked quite well. And just the shame that it brought over Tommy Gunn was priceless. I enjoyed that. I don't know. I don't think anything was missing for me. You know what I mean? That
Right.
he really put Tommy Gunn in his place, and that
Right.
was just so. I don't know. I would have him not put a second thought into that. I thought it was great.
Well, that's the thing. It's like for his fans, right?
Yeah.
For his fans, this is. I can't help but think that this is what they will come here to hear this from him, to give him an outlet, because I know a lot of times he doesn't always, in these interviews, they ask the same monotonous questions over and over because that's their job.
Right.
What's it like filming in Tulsa, Oklahoma? Oh, it's just Sopranos meets, Cowboys and Indians and so on. Right. But when you are given an answer and you go, a question, you're like, what?
Yeah.
Holy shit, I don't know.
You got him.
Wow, you got him. And he's going to remember that. He may not remember the person that asked them that question, like their name, but he's going to remember that question. And it was at this time of day, because that's how his mind works. And that is the brilliant thing, I think, of that.
Yeah, he was still struggling with the question the whole way.
I know.
He kept readjusting, and then he's like, well, and then he would shift here. It really got his brain going. And that's the part I'm like, wow. When's the last time he's gotten a question that really sort of made him dig deep?
Not since he did the Ain't It Cool News question. When Rocky Balboa, a lot of people don't know about this. I have to give a shout out to Ain't It Cool News.
Okay.
AICN. I don't even know if they're around anymore. They had some kind of a weird thing happen to them. But Ain't It Cool News, what they did was back in 2006 to help promote Rocky Balboa, they did like 12 rounds or 15 rounds with Sylvester Stallone. And every week for 15 weeks, representing the 15 rounds, they would ask 10 fans could submit a question, and that question would go to Sly, and he would answer it in detail. I mean, 3, 4, 5, 6 paragraphs long.
Wow.
Because remember, Sly had already peaked in the 80s. I'm not saying anything here that Sly has not already said on 100 interviews.
Okay.
So he peaked in the 80s. So you can only peak once, right? So now he started falling a little bit. He hadn't been doing exactly what he wanted. I mean, he'd been golfing. He'd been enjoying life with his kids and so on.
Why not?
And then he gets to Rocky Balboa. And he realizes, there's going to be a lot of doubt here. A 60-year-old Rocky, no Adrian. I mean, come on. What are we doing here? And so he wanted to promote this. And Ain't It Cool News was a huge movie place to get all the first and utmost updates on new movies coming out and so on. And so Sly hooked up with the guy that ran that, and he did these questions. You can Google that. It's still there. I also printed out all of the questions. So there are like hundreds of questions, but it was worth it. So if anybody has a chance, go back and Google that. You guys will get a very, very good education from what Sly talked about. And he did what he did for us here, but he did it in written form. But I'll take the video.
Yeah. No, that was great. Yeah, I'm going to check that out.
Yeah, it's incredible. All right. So we've got that out there. We finally technically had Sly on the show, technically. And I know he's told me he will call in. He will definitely be here at some point.
Yes.
The guy's a little busy.
Yeah. But we worked out a good plan. We're going to be telling him when we're recording.
Right.
We're going to be sending him the links every time we're recording, for that window.
Right.
And if he pops in, we pause and we will bring him in. So I will just say that, Sly, if you're listening.
Boot the guest. The guest gets booted. We talk to Sly. Every guest will understand that.
Yeah. And just for me to close, I sent out a post, asking everybody for their happy birthday messages to Sly. I am up to 35 now, I believe. So I will be very busy posting
all those
messages out there. But I want to say wish him a very, very happy birthday as well, and all the things that it's meant to me in my life. And I think just personally, there's been a lot of family issues in my family. There's been relationships I've been in and out of in my life. And for me, applying the lessons from the family relationships meant a lot to me about what's okay, what's not okay, you know. And I've said it to my friends, men and women. Would Adrian ever treat Rocky like that? Would Rocky ever treat Adrian like that? Those are very clarifying questions to apply to your life, to be like, you know what, this isn't acceptable. And I think even with Polly, because we all have that difficult person in our life too, how to handle it, when to say something, when to leave it alone. All those things, when I laid them over my life, it helped me either go after something or it's time to let it go. And that was very helpful. And I'm so grateful for that. So I do hope you have a very happy birthday with your family and friends. And we cannot wait to have you on here. So,
Sly, I'm not even going to try to top that. She said the best thing ever. I'm just going to say happy birthday. Enjoy it, my friend. Have all the cake you want. I don't care. You've earned it. Enjoy.
Absolutely. So, Mike, tell us about this.
So, okay, a long time ago, I had gotten fired. The economy was really bad, and I wrote a book called Cue the Rocky Music. You can buy it anywhere they sell books, Amazon Prime, BarnesandNoble.com. You'll love it. It's a little memoir about how I kind of made it to where I am today, and it's also a good book to kill silverfish and spiders. So it's good there. You can find me on, of course, the Yo Philly Film Tour on Instagram, and you can find me on the Yo Philly Film Tour on TikTok. Go see me, Stacy. Oh my God, The Pretender! Holy jumping Jesus! How did I forget this? Jimmy Toscano and his team out there in Detroit made a documentary about my life. They filmed us for 5 years. We were all terrified of putting our stuff out there, and Jimmy Toscano did about the most beautiful job a human being could do. The Pretender is literally everywhere except Netflix, because they're idiots and they never went to put Netflix out there. They never went to put The Pretender on Netflix. And I'm mad at Netflix. No, seriously, Netflix, I love you, but you got to give us a chance.
Yeah.
Put us out there. You have to. You have to. Anyway, Stacy, where can people find you?
I am at Had Me at Yo on Instagram, as well as The Rocky Files, and on Facebook at The Rocky Files Podcast.
Stacy, I will see you next week. Keep punching.
Keep punching. Bye-bye.
Bye.